It's wild how quick things go and like how big of your life can change.
You met Alex Hormozi, you met the founder of Skool, Sam Ovens, but you also met the top community builders of the world who make millions of euros.
People doing 100k, 200k a month. Those are people involved in tech or in AI. But what I did see is that most of them, they just focused on traffic and product. If a video gets 10 out of 10, it really affects me because...
What was the one thing like that you still remember that changed the way you look at maybe your own business?
And the first thing he would say to me was like...
Today in the 301 podcast, we are joined again by Tom Lulofs. And if you have been listening for a while, then you have heard his name before, because last time when he was here, we talked about his agency, Moxie. And since then, a lot of stuff happened. He launched the Fullstack Editor community, which was formerly known as the Social Creator Club. He has won the Skool games, has been flown out to LA to meet Alex Hormozi and Sam Ovens, and met one of the top Skool community builders in the world. And today we're going to talk about everything like Skool communities, building communities, video editors, and much more. Tom, welcome to the 301 podcast again.
Thank you so much for that that intro.
Yeah. Super exciting, because I think a lot of stuff has happened since last time since we talked, and last time since you were here in the podcast. I can remember we met in Coffee Company. Shout out to Coffee Company. You can always sponsor the podcast. We met there, and you said like, oh, I launched this tutorial channel, I think you said in the beginning, and one of the videos like really performed well. And now I have like 5,000 subscribers more overnight. Can you take us back to that moment? What happened there?
Yeah, it's wild how quick things go and like how big of your life can change. I mean, it's still like 2 years, and 2 years sounds like a lot, but yeah, like in the moment, it just feels like it was yesterday, basically. But yeah, taking back to that moment, I first thought like, okay, I'm just going to start like making these videos again. And I wasn't sure yet. And I made like 1 or 2 or 3, and they were already getting some views. And I was already like, okay, this is wild. And of course, like, it's also funny. Sometimes I think back at this moment, because you think like, okay, I got like 200, 300, 400 views. And I was like, oh my God, I got 400 views on like a new video, which is wild. And now, if I get a video of 400 views, I wouldn't be happy.
Deleting it again.
I would be I would delete it. No, but it's funny how that basically the base level that changes, right?
Yeah.
And back then I felt like, yeah, it's wild. And also the subscriber growth, it's the same thing. Like went from like 0 to, I think like it went quite quick to 5,000, but then it stagnated a bit. But even then, I was like, oh my God, even like having 1,000 subscribers is already wild, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works.
Yeah. But at one point, I remember it went super quick, because I remember then like I was checking a YouTube channel, it was like, I don't know, 15K, 21K, 27K. So it went like quite fast. I think that like YouTube growth always goes in kind of like phases, like you grow, then you stagnate a little bit, you grow. And then also, of course, depending a little bit on the content that you produce. I will talk with you in a bit about like the beginnings of the community and like also the evolution that you've done. But first, and I think that's what maybe many listeners also want to know, I want to talk about winning the Skool games, because you won the Skool games. We even hosted it here in the studio. It was quite an exciting time when like there was this internal ranking, and it was dependent on how many members everyone had. But then you got flown out, and you met Alex Hormozi, you met the founder of Skool, Sam Ovens, but you also met like the top community builders of the world who make millions of euros in revenue building communities. What was the first thing that you learned within the first 24 hours from them?
It's a good question. First of all, that period was crazy for me anyway. It's like I definitely aged a few years with that. But flying out there and like talking to these people, what is crazy anyway is like everyone has a different type of community. Everyone is doing something different. That's really cool to see, because it's not just one group of people that all do the same thing, which happens a lot, right? Like it's a lot of times you just live in a bubble, and then it's just like all these communities that do the same thing. But all these communities are doing something different, and there's someone that does calligraphy, and someone does something with AI. What I did see is, of course, like the heavy hitters, the people doing 100K, 200K a month. Those are people involved in tech or in AI or in make money niche, which makes sense because it's like there's a lot of money in that market. But what I did see is that they all focused on their product the most, which is like making sure that their community performs well, or basically there's a lot of valuable content inside of it. And the funny thing is that there were only a few people that were really like doing the nitty gritty marketing, like building funnels and like funnel hacking and like things like that. Most of them, they just focused on traffic and product, those two things. And that surprised me, actually. I even was speaking with someone that was doing 100K a month, and he said like, yeah, to be honest, I don't even know how I got to 100K a month.
Yeah.
And, that really surprised me, because he was just so chill about it. And there's so many people that are trying to do like build this crazy machine to get even to that level. And he, just almost like cracked the code, but he wasn't really like, he didn't do it on purpose. I think that's the biggest takeaway.
What do you think like is the secret then of those guys? Like they build communities with 100K, 200K revenue. Like what do you think then they do like so special that they can achieve those numbers?
I think it's a few things. I think first of all, they have the skills, right? Like you can't build a community if you don't have the knowledge to teach something or to lead this group. You really need to know a lot about this stuff. So for example, the AI guys, they know, like they're so invested in AI and they know all the tools and they're always on top of their game. They're what I also noticed that all of these AI guys, or AI automation specifically, they almost post every day on YouTube. And I spoke to them and I was like, why do you post so much, But they said like, in this world, I just really need to be on top of my game. I need to know already something, when something comes out, if it works or not, if it's valuable or not, because otherwise, I'm lacking, or I'm basically running behind the others. And they're really passionate about their stuff, because otherwise you can't keep that up. To post every day, to research every day, and to keep your Skool community like invested and happy. Like that's just plain passion, basically.
Yeah, plain passion, but also being really good at like one skill. I think that's one of the things many people underestimate when they build a community. They just think just because there's like this space that they open up, that people will automatically join, and that's basically like the entrance ticket to just build it. But I think you have to be also really, really, really good in what you're doing, and that makes a big difference.
Well, and of course, like, let's be honest, a lot of them, they also have the traffic and the target audience, because that also needs to be in place. If you have a good target audience, or a good audience that you can sell something to, or that are that have the money for it, or again, being in the right market and the right timing also, because starting an AI automation now is going to be way more difficult because it's so competitive. So like these guys also started a bit earlier. So it's always like a mix of things, right?
Yeah. There's also people that spend hundreds of thousands of euros for one-on-one meetings with Sam Ovens or Alex Hormozi. And I think, for you, it's really cool because you got to meet both of them in LA. What was the one thing like that you still remember that changed the way you look at maybe your own business, but maybe in business in general? And also maybe is there also like a thing that's applicable to more people than just yourself?
So if I have to, because I spoke with them separately, Sam Ovens, what I think is super interesting is he's so chill and he really doesn't care. And also the change that he made throughout his life, I think is also really cool to see, and really inspirational too, where he was more like a course guy with a suit in New York and like selling funnels. And now like the complete opposite, right? Like being super chill, not caring, and just building this platform. I think that's super inspirational, and really like following what fits you, and think like, okay, even if it might perform less in the beginning, it's still more me, as you will. And I think with Sam Ovens as a prime example, because he's so much more like chill, you know, and this is really like, this is actually really him. The New York type of guy that was like in the suit in a penthouse, like selling courses. He was really good at that too, but it was more like a persona, which I think is really interesting and really inspirational to see that you don't need that. Like you can even be that chill guy if you want to be, of course. Like maybe if you love being the guy in the suit, or if you want to live that lifestyle, or you aspire to be like that, that's totally cool. But do you really want to, or is it more like because it helps with conversion numbers, things like that?
Yeah.
I think that's the main takeaway from Sam. Then with Alex Hormozi, and that's more like specific to my niche, but it really made my eyes open with the what he said to me when I interviewed him. Basically, I was speaking with him and I was asking like, let's say you were a video editor, what would you do? And the first thing he would say to me was like, well, to be honest, I would first focus on the results part and not on the video editing part. See how I can get results for business owners, because at the end of the day, people hire video editors not just for a fancy edit, but for the results. And then he said, I'm assuming you also teach this in your school. And I was thinking, I was saying yes, but I was thinking, I'm not teaching this. I'm actually like so focused on that end result, right?
Yeah.
So I was falling for that trap too. Yeah. And that really was like such a big eye opener for me, because I was thinking like, yeah, he's so right with that. Like at the end of the day, results matter, you know. And also you see this now also as a trend anyways, that some content is not even edited crazy, but still performs really well. So that just proves it that, the results at the end of the day do matter.
So then it's much more about like the storytelling, the packaging, like how professional you are as a business, and all those kind of things that basically you try to teach. And I think that's very applicable to many things, right?
Yeah.
If you teach any skill, like a lot of times it's not so much about like the, I don't know, last 20% of people, but like more about like, okay, does the service that you provide really help another business like move forward, or is it just a nice to have? I think.
Yeah.
I think for podcasting was the same for like a long time, that it was always just like, oh, it's just a nice to have, like, you know, because there are so many benefits of a podcast. But I think for such a long time, it was always like, oh yeah, it's a nice to have. Well, now we move into the area where almost every company is saying like, oh, I think we need a podcast because, you know, we have video content, we can get it edited, we can get so much stuff. And I think for video editing, it's a little bit the same, right? That so many people like talk about video, but there's like not a lot of people that actually know how to kind of like implement it and make it work for their company. And I think that's a really important shift.
No, yeah. And I think it's also so easy to fall for that trap, especially when you start out. You just think like, oh, or it needs to look fancy, or what you're saying also in the podcast world, it's the same thing. Like, oh, just like, let's just have like a simple podcast because like it's cool, you know? But then, that's never really a long term, because if you focus on that, then with podcasts, you post two podcasts and then that's it.
Yeah.
And with video editing, it's the same thing. It's like you focus on the wrong things, where it's at the end of the day, it is also about getting the results. Now, I do really believe that if you have a good edit, then it can only elevate a story and it can elevate a video. But still, like you should focus on the story first.
Yeah. And if we then still go back 1.5 years or maybe 2 years, like your channel started to blow up, you got more and more subscribers. And I think it was kind of like a YouTube comment that said like, hey, are you also teaching this, you know, how to edit like this? And I think this was a little bit like when your idea formed, because I think you didn't want to build a course from the get-go, but I'm really curious, like take us back to this journey, kind of how you went also, like your personal journey from having a video editor yourself, like teaching it via YouTube videos, and then building the biggest video editing community in the world.
Yeah. So it went really natural and organic. And I'm super grateful for that too, because I think if it was from the get-go, like, oh, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel to monetize it and to make money, I don't think I would have been where I was at this moment, because I really focus on just creating cool videos that might potentially go viral, and I didn't really focus on the monetization part of it yet. And at least for the first few months, I didn't even think of that. And then when it got like a bit of traction, then I was thinking like, okay, I could potentially monetize it. And it started with something really small. I started selling some like templates and project files for like $5 per thing. And I saw already a bit of interest. Some people were buying that. So, okay, cool. And then indeed, what you're saying is I got a few comments, and it wasn't crazy. It wasn't like I got spammed all day. Like, oh, you need to like start selling a course. That's definitely not true. But I saw a few comments, and I was thinking like, yeah, well, why not? Why not have something like a course or like extra material that you can monetize, as you will. Yeah.
Do you think that's also then like a pitfall of creators like nowadays? Because like what I find so remarkable in your journey is like you had a skill, you did something with it, and then you got first traction, and then you decided to like do something with it, right? And what I see more and more now is that people have a skill, but from the get-go, they immediately try to like sell stuff. Like there's no traction, there's not a lot of people, but then they immediately, I don't know, have a Skool community or have like a course or have like something, but without actually like building something. So what would be your kind of like advice? Like first build something, try if it works, or kind of set everything up super professionally and then have a course ready and everything?
Both can work, I would say. Personally, I do believe that I think it's a nicer way to first build something, like build traffic and not monetize it immediately. And why I say that is also with because the intention is right, I would say. And I'm not sure of this because I do think that, again, both can work. I'm not sure if the audience can also see this, but I could imagine that if you have the intention of like, oh, I'm gonna just like sell, and I'm just doing this like just to sell, like that's your main focus, then I could imagine that some people will see that, and that will affect your conversion rate, as you will.
Yeah.
So it will actually work the opposite way that you actually want it to work. You want more conversion, so maybe it's better to just focus on building traffic first, building a bit of traction and an audience, and then monetize it. But again, I don't think there's a wrong way, because I think both can work. I've seen both things work, where people just start with the monetization from the get-go. So it can both work, but my personal preference is definitely like building the audience first, because again, the intention is right. The intention is to bring value and to maybe grow this, and then maybe in the future, like, of course, like you can think of it, but at least it's not like a play that you're doing, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. What what was your consideration then in the beginning of, because I think you also had two options, right? You could have just launched like some courses and sold them for like, I don't know, $200 or $300, have several like funnels that you basically like upsell people, but you kind of, I think, very deliberately like decided to do like a community. Like what was your consideration of like doing one or not the other?
Yeah, I definitely really considered like, should I make a course or should I make a community and connect a course in that community? And it was really difficult because I didn't know, but I was looking at other communities and I was thinking like, yeah, I want something like that too. I want to discuss with people. I want to have like fun with people. So that's one part of it. I also didn't have my material ready, which sounds weird, but I just was like, okay, now is the moment. It felt just right to just launch this thing. And I wouldn't have been able to launch it if it was a course, because I had a few lessons ready. And with a community, you can be like, okay, let's build this together, which I wanted to do anyway, because I was like, okay, I'm not sure, like I can make all these lessons, but maybe people are really not interested in it. Whereas if I build it together with them, it's way nicer, because then I can ask them for feedback, or I can ask like, okay, what do you guys want to see? Or what stuff do you already have seen on YouTube and do you want to see here? Or where can I like basically support almost? And what is really nice is that I didn't have to have my full course ready yet. I could just have a few videos. And then there's a lot of more pros to it, is also what I really believe is like it's a win-win situation from both sides. Whereas with a course, what I see a lot is like you invest once. What I've noticed in my own cases where I invest in a course, you invest once, then you might watch it. You have money in it, so there's already an investment there. So you want to get that out of it. But what happens a lot is like you watch it for a week or maybe 2 weeks, and then it basically ends a bit there. Like that's it. You don't get much more value out of it because it's a one-time thing. Whereas with a monthly thing, you're paying monthly. It's therefore it's also a bit more cheap. So it's not like a big investment from their side. And content will be added throughout the months. So you get more content. You also get the community part of it. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's a really win-win situation for both sides. Also for me, because there's also pressure. I think like at the end of the day, what happens a lot with these, when you sell a course, you sell it once. And then after that, you don't really have to add more to it, or you don't have to add more support, which is nice as the creator. But I also kind of liked the pressure of basically having to push every month to almost be like, okay, this product that I'm building is never done. And I'm molding it every time and like trying to improve it every time. And that's, I also think like the power of it, because if you do that every month, you're improving it every month. Whereas with a course, what happens a lot is like you make it once and then that's it. Yeah. And then there's another thing of it, and that's not with every market, of course, but there's also a thing of like keeping things up to date, because I'm working with styles, or maybe there's like new AI tools now. If I would still be selling the course that I would have created like 2 years ago, it would be really outdated, because there would be lessons that maybe are not even important anymore, or there's things in that are missing. And the nice thing about the community is that you're really like building that.
Evolving, yeah. I think that's also especially like I think in the editing community, right? I mean, now there was like this Apple style new editing style, and if you don't have a lesson on that, then you're like super outdated.
Exactly. And of course you can update your course, and like you can also do that. And I also think again both can work, because you could also sell like a one-time course or something, or an annual subscription. So there's many things that can work, but for me this worked the best, in the best way. And what I've like one last thing what I also see is that people join for the course or for the materials, and then they stay for the community. And I've seen that with other communities too. Like you join for the course material, but then you stay after. Yeah,
for like the kind of community feeling, and also like having challenges together. What was for you kind of like in the beginning phase like the most surprising things about communities, or what was like the thing, like maybe like the biggest learning for you that you didn't expect you would get out of it?
Yeah, a lot of things actually. So I never did this before. So I just knew, okay, I have like people on my YouTube, but that's like really a one-way street, because they just interact with me. They maybe like leave a comment and then I reply to it, but that's where it ends. Whereas with a community, what I noticed is that you get some of these like almost like power players, like people that are really invested in it. And that's amazing to see, because it makes me happy to see that people are just as passionate about this as me, and then are also helping others basically with their editing, or maybe like giving feedback. And I never thought that would happen. And that's also part of having, I think, like a paid community also, because like people that, like if you pay for something, you want to get something out of it. And I've also noticed that with me, if I go into something for free or something, then I'm like lurking and just watching it. Whereas if I pay something, then I also want to be active, want to get everything out of it. But I never anticipated them being active with each other and like helping each other out. And the most crazy thing is what I noticed is once they started doing calls without me. And that's not even that long ago when that happened. But that's like amazing. It's really cool. I think that's so awesome, because then the community almost becomes bigger than just me, you know. If I don't have to be there, you know, like, and that they communicate with each other and help each other out, that's just so nice to see.
Comes to be kind of like self-sustaining, you know. That
I mean, aside of the business thing, because you could also see it like, oh, like, it saves me so much time, and like, oh, like, it's so nice that. But I look at mainly at like just on the human level, that they really like help each other out. I think it's just so nice to see.
And I think that's also what people underestimate very much, like the especially when they start to build communities, they think like, oh, at one point I need to hire a community manager and all this kind of stuff. But if you build a community that is really built on like trust, and like if it's a safe place and if it's a cool community, like the people from the community will step up and fill those roles anyways. I think in every like project, like it was a blockchain project or whatever, there's like the moderators or community managers that were always from the community, because they naturally just took it over to reply and say like, oh no, like Tom is busy, or Tom is doing this or something like this, that you think like, hey, that's cool. Like almost like a PA, you know, kind of acting like normally like this, which is also really cool.
No, but that's a good point. A lot of people, they hire from their own community. So it's perfect. Yeah.
Which is very smart. Still, what I find interesting with all the knowledge available and with all the stuff that is going around, I think most communities fail. Why do you think yours is different? And what do you think is like the biggest pitfall of people building communities?
The biggest pitfall, I would say, is the activity of the owner. Because what I see a lot, and the cool thing is with Skool, and I'm sure there's other platforms where you can also see this, but the activity of the owner is public. So you can see how much activity they do. And almost all these Skool communities that fail have owners with almost zero activity, because they see it as a business. And they just think like, or they see it as a passive, like I also see it as a business, but I don't see it as a passive business. And a lot of these owners, they see it as a passive business. They do a bit more like the old school course model, but then they mask it as a community almost. So they say like, oh, like this is a community, but it's actually just a course. They sell a lot on the front end, but then people churn. So people, they join and they see that the owner is not active. There's not few calls. It just is like a dead place almost, where people just join in and then like, okay, nobody is active in here. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like, I truly care about the community and like making sure to bring as much value as possible every month or every week. And I think a lot of community owners, they don't care, or they just are in it with the wrong mindset. Whereas like they just think it's like a passive business, or they think of it as like the old school course model. Yeah. But it's not. It's completely different.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I hope it's not a secret that I'm spilling here. Of course, we are like sharing this office space here, and I think it's super crazy to see how much time you spend on the community. I mean, you have coffee hours where you just join and people can just have like a casual chat. I think you have 2 times per week, like a community call, one Wednesday, one Saturday, which we don't get a lot of sunny days in Amsterdam, but you are still here, like 35 degree, like nicest weather, and you do your community call. And I think those are the things that many people that want to build a community don't see, that it requires so much like work and so much like sweat and tears to kind of like literally sweat in that case, to kind of make this work. So I think that's also something, as you said, like I think that many people underestimate a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you can make it, of course, like what is nice about the community is that, yes, of course, with a nice monthly recurring revenue, you don't per se have to spend a lot of hours. I also want to, because I enjoy it and I like it. But I also see other Skool owners that can still or run successful Skool communities with not that much hours invested in it. That being said, there's one communality, and that's that they all do care about their community, and they are all active, at least, like some way or another. Or it's like 1 hour every day, or it's 2 hours every day, but at least like being really really active, and it doesn't have to be as crazy as I like what I'm doing. But
and being there for the people.
Being there for the people, because otherwise, if you set the tone, right, as the owner, if you're already not being active, then your community is definitely not going to be active. Because you set the wrong example.
You've been now working, I think, on this community for the past 2 years, I think, roundabout. And I don't know how many weeks it was ago, but maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, you had like a really, really big rebrand. It rebranded from the Social Creator Club to Fullstack Editor. Was it just a name shift, or was this also like really a shift in vision of what you want to build?
Yeah, well, it was a combination. It was like, well, first of all, it goes back to the Alex Hormozi thing. What I said before is like, I didn't want to just focus on like the end result anymore. I wanted to really focus on like more like a movement, or like that you go through this process of becoming something, because you can't become what my name before was Social Creator Club. You can't become a Social Creator Club, but you can become a full stack editor. So like coming up with this like a new name of being an editor that not just does edits, but also focus on getting results, almost like a growth marketer or a growth hacker, as you will, for editing. And that's why I changed the name. And also the Social Creator Club, I came up with that when I started out. It was just like getting dusty a bit. I thought it was a cool name, but it didn't really fit the vibe, because no one is really like doing like social content. Well, they are indirectly, but it was a bit, it would have been a more fitting name, Social Creator Club, for like, I don't know, like
content creators.
Yeah, content creators. And there's a few content creators in it, but most of the people are editors.
Full stack editor. And you're also like very honest, I think, always about like your failures and about like the hard lessons. What would you say was the biggest like failure so far in this journey?
A few things. Do you have a bit?
I have all the time in the world.
Yeah, so what I noticed a few times is I did a few price increases throughout the years or months, and I thought like that it would work, and sometimes it didn't work. What I did find out is that nothing is like fixed, as in like if you change a price and it doesn't work, you can always go back. And I always thought like, okay, like now I'm stuck with this price forever. But I had some price increases where I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't the right moment to do a price increase. I did a price increase last time, and I think then was the right moment. But before that, I was thinking like, it wasn't really the right moment, because there was not much more extra value. There was a bit more extra value, but that's it. But also recently, I started doing some free trials, and I might do it in the future. But what works for someone else doesn't work for me. And I mean, this is basic advice, which I've gotten many times before. But it's just like, you think something works because you see it somewhere else, because someone has a free trial, like a free trial funnel, or it's like, okay, that looks cool, I would like to try that, and it doesn't work with your audience. But yeah, the only thing is, of course, to test it, because otherwise you will never find out. I've been thinking about doing free trials for months, and now I tested it and it didn't work. But maybe it works in the future when my audience is a bit different. What I just noticed is that like, it's just difficult with certain audiences that like it can also not work. And
how do you deal then with those kind of like hard lessons as well? Like, are you then really hard on yourself, or can you forget quite quickly and just like break and move on?
I'm quite hard on myself. Yeah, I noticed that with like the free trials. Also, when it didn't work, or like, what didn't work? It's always like what you call didn't work. I mean, I still got members out of it, so you could say like it could work, but it didn't work as intended or as I hoped that it worked. And then I'm quite hard on myself, because I'm thinking like, it all goes to waste or something, you know, which is never true. But it's just like, I'm quite hard on myself.
And how do you deal with that then? Like, is there then like a kind of like a mechanism that you forget, or is it just like I don't know, are you working then like ultra hard to make something else work, or like pivot fast, or how do you deal with that then?
Well, the first few days, I'm mostly just emotionally sad, and then after a while, it does turn where I'm going more into like a problem solving mode of like, okay, now let's see what I can do to increase this or like make this better. Because at the end of the day, it's just like sticking with it doesn't really work. And the funny thing is, I also heard this from some Sam Ovens really recently. Not because I spoke with him, but through someone else. He's really close to Sam Ovens, and I was talking with him, and he said a few interesting things about him. And basically, one thing was that in some situations, if he can't choose, he will just do a spin the wheel, which I thought was really funny. I might introduce that too in my decision-making process.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, or flip a coin. Or he would just make like a spreadsheet. Like that's the alternative, with like crazy formulas to get to the answer. But what it comes down to is like basically a doubt, like doubting ideas or decisions. Most of the times it takes more time than just making the decision and trying it out and then maybe failing. Because what happens a lot, and I have this like big time, where I sometimes just think over these ideas way too long. I mean, speaking about the free trial, right? Like months and months just thinking about the free trial, that also costs time, which you don't really anticipate on and you don't think of, but like it adds up. And maybe discussing it with people around you every time. And then counting that all up, probably like thinking about the free trial option probably took me maybe like a week of time, whereas I could have also spent maybe like half a day to set this up, try it, and then know if it works or not. So sometimes you really have to just like make the decision, either by flipping a coin or spinning the wheel.
But I also think that's a little bit business, right? A lot of times you just like, you don't know like what really works. You know, like you try different things and you think, oh my God, that's going to be the next big thing. And then you realize, oh, and actually no one really wants that or something. But you prepared like month and month for this big thing. So I think that's why, like still, especially when you build communities, listen to feedback, I think is really important. Like when you build, like just try it out, and then you see super, super fast, especially if you have like a community or an audience, what they want or what they don't want. And I think founders are still like too much in the kind of idea chamber and like think, like, okay, we can do this, and then they launch it way too late. And then most of the time they're like, okay, no one requested that feature or no one wanted that thing.
Well, that's also the issue. And like it again, even that decision or basically the thinking of, or should we do it or not, like that takes a lot of time.
And what's then like the next stage now for Fullstack Editor? Because of course you talked a little bit about the shift that your members need to become more than just like editors, but kind of like switching to business owners. What does this entail, and also what can people then expect from like your teachings? Like what other modules are you going to have except like not only video editing, but also other parts?
So I already started out rolling out some things, and basically, for example, teaching how I did my YouTube channel or YouTube optimization, because I don't really believe that all these editors, they need to like master everything, but at least knowing about it, or knowing how to maybe outsource it, or where to look at, for example, also thumbnail design for YouTube. So like having knowing a bit about thumbnail design. You don't have to become a thumbnail designer, but at least knowing maybe what to look for or where to outsource it, and what makes a good thumbnail and what doesn't. Because if you know that as an editor, then you can also sell that to your client and almost become more like a YouTube growth partner, for example. But also how to negotiate percentage deals or commission deals, because I think that's also really nice. I really believe that most editors, they don't really want 10 shitty clients. They rather have 1 or 2 good clients to really grow with, because that's super nice. You have less feedback, you have a better relationship, and then maybe with a commission deal, like you can stay with that and really grow with that person like long term. Not every, like some editors really want to build their agency and have like 10, 20 clients, but most of them, they just want to, what I notice at least, like build together. So I'm focusing more on that, like making material on that. And on the front side, so this is more like the back end, but then on the front end, I also want to make sure that I introduce this in my content. So for example, teaching a bit more about storytelling or strategies or how a video, maybe even like cinematography. So making it a bit broader than just the advanced editing techniques, because I think at the end of the day, the advanced editing techniques, you need to like at least have a good base level. But if you don't know how to get results with it, then it's just really like a commodity skill.
Yeah. But what do you think is the number one skill like a modern video editor needs to have?
Yeah, I said this a lot, and I've seen this also, is like communication. Because what I've seen just too many times is that some editors are really good at editing, or even like at getting results with their edit, but then their communication is off. And it's of course a really like general term. It's really general advice, but it's small things, right? Like keeping your client up to date, or like just the whole client process or business process almost. It's what a lot of people lack, or a lot of editors lack. And I also think this is because a lot of editors, they're more like artists, whereas they should be a bit more business owners and business oriented. Because then, for example, also with feedback, then at least or feedback rounds, like being honest about that or upfront about it. Like, hey, I have 2 feedback rounds, instead of not saying it because you're too scared of it, and then like you'll shoot yourself in the foot because of a few days later you'll get 20 feedback rounds from the client. Yeah, that's just what I've seen a lot of times.
Yeah, and also communicating the not so nice things about the business, right?
Yeah,
so,
100%.
If it's late, if it's delayed, like all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of times I experience with not only editors, but let's say with creative outsourcing of like designs and all this kind of stuff, that when something is late, sometimes it's not so bad that it's late, but it's bad if you have to follow up as a client and say like, hey, I thought you're going to deliver today. And then it's like, yeah, but there was like this. And it's so easy to write an email and say like, hey, look, we have a delay. We tried everything, but it is what it is, because sometimes creative things take more time, or especially working with video, there's like, I don't know, things going wrong with exports, with buggy programs. With, there's so much elements to it, right? Like formatted SD cards and everything that people try to fix it or try to like solve something in the background. But I think, as you said, communication is like really, really a key. Yeah. If we flip the script on that, you talked, and I also said about outsourcing. There's many creatives, that solopreneurs, small business owners, that understand the importance of video, and they are looking to outsource their podcast editing, their shorts editing, their video editing, all this kind of stuff. And the address most people go to is Fiverr or Upwork. I mean, I didn't have too much positive experience with Fiverr and Upwork, because I think it's quite unreliable, the people there. The prices, they seem in the first place very cheap, but most of the time they upsell you, because then they say, oh, this is not included, and oh, that's 1 second longer, now you have to pay more. So in the end, it's just like a pain in the ass without actually saving money. What would be your advice for those people like looking to outsource? Like, what are the red flags of video editors? What are the green flags of video editors? And how do you find like the right fit for you?
So it's all about expectations and questions. But basically the process, if I would like, maybe it's smart to just take you through the process of hiring, right? So first of all, you have to find the editor somewhere. And that could be on your Instagram. Maybe you're like scrolling, you find their personal brand. It can be through Fullstack Editor, because you saw like, or you do a post there, or maybe you like find someone like on the internet or on Twitter or on Instagram. So you find the editor. And I think the most important thing, what a lot of clients don't do, is ask for a sample, or ask for at least like a really small edit, so you can at least see their skills. Because what happens a lot is like with it's really sad, but a lot of times these editors have amazing portfolios, or they have stuff in their portfolio where you think like, okay, this could be like a perfect fit. But then when they really start working on something, it can be like miles different than what they post in their portfolio. And that's just because they put their best work in their portfolio. Maybe they worked on that for like months, or it could be like that it's really something different. So they're not really used to like this type of content. So it's really important to see what they really added before you even like get started. Now, I do really believe that it's not ethical to get 10 editors to make samples. I always just choose 1 or 2 because I think that's fair. I don't think it's nice to like go with 10 editors and like all make them samples, because you're wasting a lot of time there. Even if you don't know these people, you're still wasting a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I always like choose 1 or 2 editors to do a sample, and then make it short, but at least have it include everything that you need. And also ask them questions like, okay, what is your current situation? Maybe like some are in school, for example, and if that's fine with you, that's cool. But there are some things that are limited then. For example, I made the mistake once that I was hiring an editor that was still in school for a client that had quite rough deadlines. And that was just a mistake. Now, this editor would have been fine on a client that was a bit more chill in terms of the deadlines, or had less content needs. However, this client wasn't, and it didn't work out because the editor could only work on nighttime. And if I had to send some feedback during the day, I would have to wait till at the end of the day till I get the response from him.
Yeah.
And again, that would have been fine with any other client, but with this client, that didn't work. So that's always important. Some other things is like, okay, see how quick they deliver the sample video, because some people are also then thinking like, okay, you know what, the sample video, it's just a sample anyway. Let's just wait 2-3 weeks with it. And that also shows like, okay, that also means that they maybe with a normal edit would also take the same amount of time. And you can also ask them like, hey, how much time did you spend on this sample, right? Like, and then you can also already judge a bit on that. Well, and I think the whole process of like the client anyway, and this is not the client's responsibility, but of course working with feedback rounds, I think that's always nice for both sides. Having like a tool like frame.io to do the feedback in, having like clear deadlines, that's also important. Some clients are a bit vague with that, like, oh, it just needs to be done like maybe like next week or something. But if you say like next week, then it will be end of the next week. Yeah. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind too.
Okay, so finding the right like style, picking 1 or 2, getting like a sample made, and then like communicating like really clear with the editor, like what you expect in terms of feedback rounds, delivery processes, and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's really helpful, because I think there's a lot of people out there that search for it, and I mean, of course, like there's so many different options that you can go, but I think if the client is more in lead and knows what they're searching for, it's much easier. And I also assume like if they really, really need help, they can also always reach out to you. I mean, you have such a immense network of editors inside of your community. So I think you're always happy to post a job there, because of course there's many editors that can help. There's one other side from you that we haven't really talked about, because we have talked about Tom the community builder, Tom the entrepreneur, but we haven't talked about Tom the creator, because besides like building like this ecosystem of like a company and the community, like in the end you are still yourself like a YouTuber and a content creator, and I've never really seen you like this for some reason. And we attended a dinner recently, and then you said like, I'm a YouTuber, and then I thought like, oh, he's a YouTuber? It's like, oh yeah, right, in the first place you're like a YouTuber, which was quite a funny realization for myself. But a YouTuber and a creator, they also bring a different kind of set of challenges with them, right? Because besides the like growing numbers in the community and maybe also like on growing the company, you are still very like driven by and measured also by your success in terms of like, do your videos perform? Do they get views? Do you get new subscribers and all this kind of stuff? how do you like balance this kind of pressure of I grow community and I need to like still put out videos and still kind of need to be ahead of the curve to really showcase that you're like the authority of creating cool edits?
Yeah, it's crazy difficult. Yeah, it's also something I struggle with because it's always thinking like, okay, where does your focus go, right? Like, do you focus on the community and then do you focus on the YouTube? But yeah, you want the YouTube to run, but you also want to run, like the school to run. So like, yeah, you have to like manage them both at once. And that is difficult. What helps for me is really like now with the YouTube thing is that I have a set schedule. I want to upload at least once a week. And I really like, that's always in my head, like, oh, I need to upload once a week. So that's like really nice, or like made it easy because it's just, okay, it's always once a week. And if I like, sometimes it happens where it's like 1.5 week, but it will still be in my head all day that I'm like, I still need to post something. So that really helps because it just gets into your like routine. And then your other question, to stay up to date. I made a mistake actually a few months ago where I outsourced. Like I was like, hey, why not work with an editor to maybe like animate something from like an intro? And I must be honest, like she's really talented and she made a really cool edit. So that wasn't the issue. But I was doing like basically the boring edit and then she was doing the fun edit. And I was thinking like, why did I do this? Like I wanted to do the fun edit.
Yeah.
And I'm now doing like the boring edit, like doing the boring work. And then not only that, this also would normally show my skills, and it doesn't show my skills, it shows hers, which is also totally fine. Like I'm it's not about taking the spotlight. It's just that it felt so wrong that I was like, okay, this actually should be the other way around, right? Like it felt weird that I wasn't doing that. And I was also thinking like, what if I would do this every time? What if I would outsource all these intros? Well, I wouldn't be animating anymore, probably. Well, I would have some client work here and there, but it wouldn't be as crazy, and it wouldn't really keep me up to date with the newest skills. Same with the storytelling, same with the thumbnails. You know, it really keeps you up to date by just doing it yourself. However, that being said, I do still have to learn to also basically outsource stuff, or basically let other people do some things at least, which is something like I still have to learn in the future, because I'm not doing that. I'm still picking up way too much myself. And then I sell it to myself like, okay, I need to be up to date.
Yeah.
And I don't want to become like this guru that doesn't do their own shit anymore. But I do think that I should actually like outsource more. Yeah.
And how do you look in general to like numbers and like performances? Because of course, I mean, you've for the people that listen to the first episode, like they can listen back to it, but there you already grown like a couple of YouTube channels, like very big. You walked away from it, so it's not like that you started 2 years ago with YouTube and you were like a newbie. Like you knew exactly what you were doing in the end, and you've done it again. But how do you look at like kind of like performances, numbers, views, subscribers, and that in general? Like, does that put a lot of pressure on you?
It does. And also, unfortunately, this is also something I have to work on, but emotionally it affects me too much still. As in, like, if a video, it goes both ways actually, which is like if a video doesn't perform well or a video performs well. If a video performs well and it gets like a 1 out of 10, which is like a YouTube term where it sounds negative, but it's actually really positive. It's like one of my highlights of my life. And it gives this confetti, right? And it's like this dopamine rush of like, okay, this is like, it's so nice to get a 1 out of 10. But for me, it also works. It works both ways. Where if a video gets 10 out of 10, it really affects me because I'm like, it's not a nice feeling at all.
Yeah.
And maybe I should work on like maybe suppressing them on both sides, where it's like, oh, if you have a 1 out of 10, cool. If you have a 10 out of 10, also cool. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's difficult. So
is it then sometimes difficult to kind of like teach that as well? like to, like, let's say, teach that to others, like not be affected, because you have some content creators also in your community. But I think it's always like, there's two like sides of a medal, right? That on the one hand, like you have to say like, oh, don't worry, be patient, and like, you know, it will come. But on the other hand, you also know how it is to sit on the side of the table.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, I can also just talk about the experience. And I do think it really helps if you're not a creator yourself. If you're like, let's say you are an editor that are managing something for someone else, it's like, okay, like it will never affect you, I think, as much as it will do with yourself. I've experienced that myself too, because like when I work for clients, if a video doesn't perform well, it's not great, especially if you have like a commission deal or something where you also get extra on their views or something like that. However, at the end of the day, you are still getting paid, probably, at least a base fee probably. And it's not your channel, so you don't care as much as when it's your own.
Yeah. And we also have, of course, a lot of content creators listening, a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that create content themselves, and that also maybe started with YouTube or are already like long in the journey. Like, what are the top tips that you could give for like that makes their channel stagnate? What are the biggest mistakes you see a lot of people making?
Well, multiple things. I can't say one thing, but consistency, of course, like everyone says like, oh, you need to be consistent, but I think for the wrong reasons. When you start out, you just think like, okay, if I upload consistent, that like hacks the algorithm or something, and then like my videos go viral. But that I don't believe that that's the case. It's more that because if you upload consistent, you push yourself to get into this frame of like uploading every time. And I don't think no one creates just videos, and if they don't perform well, just keep doing what they're doing, right? I just don't believe that. So what it enables you what it enables you to do is like when you upload weekly, every time you upload and the video doesn't perform well, you're gonna improve it because you're forced to, because otherwise, no one likes to look at 0 views. So forcing yourself to improve your videos, and not per se in quality or something, but also in context and trying different things out. I think that's the number one key that really makes a channel grow. And also the what makes it fail is people that either upload once a year and then just expect it to like go well, because at the end of the day, it's also a skill that you build up, this whole YouTube thing. And no one really knows, of course, what can go viral, what doesn't, but you will get better at the game of like, okay, just getting videos out, and they'll automatically will perform better in the future.
Yeah. And also I think that like with consistent uploads, I think that's maybe even the most underrated thing. You just get more chances of getting discovered, right? Because like sometimes it's so random what clicks. I think most of the creators that grew very big channels, they had a couple of viral hits and then grew most of their following from that, and then just like continuously grew because they had a bigger audience, and then like it grew like quite steadily. Yeah. But I've never seen big creators that grow just like this, but most of them they grow like up, stagnate, up, stagnate, and I think that's what many people really underestimate, that like you don't know what will go viral or what will be well received. And I think we live also in a world where we are very spoiled, right? So for example, I see a lot of times on TikTok that people say like, oh, I'm stuck in the 200 view jail and stuff like this. And then you look at their followers and they have 18 followers. And then I think like, wow, that's actually like, it's actually crazy. It's like 10 times the amount of people that follow you. And it's a chance that 200 people see your content if you upload every day, every single day. And even though that you're stuck in the 200 like view jail, like who knows, maybe at one point you get maybe 5,000 or 6,000 views. So I think we also became very spoiled with views, but if we actually like look at numbers, that is insane, right? Like 100%. 200 people looking at your content, like wow, respect. Yeah,
No, but I agree with both. One, it's like a slot machine. So every time you get a chance to go viral, so And I also, like I said, you will become better anyway. If you upload every week, like I just don't believe there's a world where you upload every week and you'll stay the same level. Like that just doesn't exist. And also what you're saying 100% is like, you also don't need a crazy following, because I've also seen quite a few Skool communities with like not even a crazy amount of following. Keep in mind, like especially there's some AI automation channels. They have like 20 to 30,000 subscribers, which is a lot of subscribers, but they're at the top 10 making the most money. They're like making 200K a month or something with 20 to 30,000 subscribers, which is crazy if you look at the grand scheme of things. And if you start out, you think like, okay, 20, 30,000 subscribers is a lot, which it is, but it's still, let's scale that down. Let's say you, with 3 to 4,000 subscribers, you make 20 to 30K a month. Like that's wild, right? And that stuff is real, because these people, exactly what you're saying is also like the quality of subscribers or viewers also matter. You can have an entertainment or vlog channel with like 100,000 of subscribers and not make any money.
No, that's true. Really crazy, really interesting. What's for you like next, if you look in the next 12 months, like how do you see the Fullstack Editor community evolve? I mean, it's always a little bit difficult because it's so fast moving, but if you could take an educated guess, what or maybe educated wish, what would it be?
Well, I wish I set up more partnerships, because I do really believe that there's a lot of people coming to Skool, the Skool platform now, but also building communities, and they need editors. And I think it's cool to set up like collaborations to get as much editors a gig or a job, and not even to earn with it, but just to bring the value there. And like, I think that's like would be really cool. Like in the ideal world, it would be like you join the Fullstack Editor club as a Fullstack editor or as an editor, and you can maybe if you want to apply for a job, or a gig. That would be the ideal world. So I'm working on that. And also, of course, like broadening it up a bit in terms of the audience in the front, but also the back end, like focusing a bit more on AI stuff, on storytelling, and on cinematography, and making it just a bit broader than just the advanced editing techniques. Yeah,
nice. And if you could picture a perfect day in 1 or 2 years, how would that look like for you?
Have some pastries in the morning.
Yes.
And probably go for a swim. I like a swim. Then probably check in with the community. I like to always like read the posts and like comment to some people, like a few posts. I would love to have a Q&A call still, because as much as I hate like calls, because it's like, okay, I don't think, well, there's probably some weird people, but most people, they don't like to schedule a call in their weekend on a Saturday, needing to be behind your computer when the weather is really good. However, every time I have a call, it's so like super nice, because you get to speak with peers and like people that are just as interested in this topic as you, and you can nerd out about stuff, and I really, really enjoy that. So still having a Q&A call or live call some way, and then probably like dinner with my girlfriend and to the movies after.
Perfect. Sounds like a perfect day for me as well. Awesome. Thanks so much. I think we've learned a lot today about building a community, what it takes to build like one of the best and biggest video editing communities in the world. Also, I think a lot of cool learnings from Alex Hormozi, of Sam Ovens, of other Skool community creator. You know the drill. 301 podcast. We always have 3 final questions. I don't remember what you said in the last ones, but
I also don't. So
we can compare.
I haven't prepared this. Also,
we can compare it afterwards. So the first question is, what are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Well, I mentioned a few things. Being too emotionally attached to things, I would say, like, that's definitely one thing. Yeah.
That you're working on as well.
I am working on it.
That you're working on. What name would you give this chapter of your life?
I would call it scaling.
Scaling?
Yeah.
I'm so curious to listen back to it. And the last one is, if you could send an SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
Be grateful, be kind, and enjoy the little things.
Be grateful, be kind, and enjoy the little things. That's a perfect way to end this episode. Thank you so much for coming, Tom, to the podcast again. I think it was so nice to check in with you. It was also a little bit like my idea from the beginning when I launched this podcast. Now we are like 4 years in, so which means we can kind of like bring back some of the guests. And it's really insane from like where you've grown the first episode, let's say, just being a agency owner, trying to build a social agency, and now, building one of the top video editing communities in the world is very, very impressive. And thanks again for coming by.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And for you, it's now the time to subscribe to the 301 podcast, because still over 80% are not subscribed. Guys, subscribe to the podcast. We can bring in even more amazing guests, even though that's hard to top if you have the world's best editor here. Go subscribe to the 301 podcast, and we are back with a new episode in a very few time.